And then Allah Azza wa Jal says, كِلْتَ الْجَنَّتَيْنِ آتَتْ أُقُلُهَا وَلَمْ تَظْلِمْ مِنْهُ شَيْئًا. Think about this. That both these gardens were producing. You know, sometimes you go to the shop and they'll say bananas at $11.99 a kilo. You go, what the hell just happened? And then, we had an off season. Tomatoes go up, bad season. This didn't have any off seasons. Allah says in the Quran, وَلَمْ تَظْلِمْ مِنْهُ شَيْئًا. So there was no bad day. They were always producing. They're always producing. They're always giving. There's something coming from this land. Allah is saying this as an example so we can understand. Allah says, وَفَجَّرْنَا خِلَالَهُمَا نَهْرًا وَكَانَ لَهُ ثَمَرًا. So why am I saying this whole verse? That to explain to you this parable of two men. One has this, one has naught. On top of this, God says, and this is mind-boggling, He says He has a river flowing, a river. A whole river is flowing through these gardens. He doesn't have, Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He doesn't have, you know how sometimes you might have what they call on a farmland, you have those little dams. They call them dams. They're little reservoirs. And now they look like a little lake, but they're man-made dams. And you can see some of them grow in size, but imagine a whole river is flowing through, not a creek. A river is flowing through these two gardens. And then Allah says, وَكَانَ لَهُ ثَمَرٌ. This person has fruits from this. And in other words, this person is making a lot from these two gardens. Then one day, what does he do? He comes out and he looks at his lands. Looks at how much he's worth, his value. It says in the Quran, he says, فَقَالَ لِصَاحِبِهِ وَهُوَ يُحَاوِرُهُ أَنَا أَكْثَرُ مِنْكَ مَالًا وَأَعَزُّ نَفَرًا. So he says to his friend, وَهُوَ يُحَاوِرُهُ. Hiwar is when you have a dialogue with someone. But he's not really having a dialogue here, he's boasting. He said, listen, I've got more money than you and I've got more manpower. You know, when one person gets rich, what happens? Second someone gets rich, what happens? The groupies start, all these people that, you know, he gets a new posse that's around him. The people that hang out with, you ever seen a rich person and then he's got all these people that tag along, you know, all the leeches that sit with them trying to attain something from them, and all these new friends that you didn't know you had start attaching themselves. So he says, I have all these people, I have all these numbers, and I have all this money. So once you lose all this wealth and influence, the people go with it, because that's why they attach themselves. So he's boasting, and then God says in the Quran, وَدَخَلَ جَنَّتَهُ وَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. That he entered his garden. وَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. Meaning, what do we say when someone ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ, when someone has oppressed themselves? Why is God saying this? Because of his delusion, as we'll find here. He says, قَالَ مَا أَظُنُّ أَن تَبِيدَ هَذِهِ أَبَدًا. I don't believe. You know, when someone has so much wealth and so much vastness of wealth. You know, I remember once one Lebanese politician, you know, he was asked a question on television. They said, how much money do you have? He replied by saying, before you ask the question or after you ask the question, do you want me to tell you? This is what we're talking about, gloating to that point. That I am so rich, I have this position that I can respond in this manner. Before your question or after your question. So he said, I cannot ever see all that I have, ever. There's no chance it will deplete. I will never run out. And then he says, وَمَا أَظُنُّ السَّاعَةَ قَائِمَةً وَلَئِنْ رُدِدْتُ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي لَأَجِدَنَّ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا مُنْقَلَبًا. He says, nor do I think the hour will come, Day of Judgment. You know, I'm going to live forever. I'm so rich. I have so many friends. I'm going to live forever. I'm never going to die. And even if I did die, even the time came for me to leave, I don't think the tables are going to ever turn. What does he mean by this? You know these people, have you ever seen these people that have huge car collections? They say, oh, yeah, I picked up this car in 1971, you know, and this one I bought it here and this one I bought it there. And they just have this warehouse full of cars that they don't drive. And they don't own really, because the cars own them. That's all they're there for. And they just show you their wealth. They like to flaunt their wealth. You know, like one leader of a country, he doesn't buy one car, he always buys two. New McLaren comes out, he buys two. The new Bugatti comes out, he buys two. He has to buy two of each. And he has all this, amasses all this wealth. They still, these people, they're people, they still seek this world, but they are deluded. Because they think they're going to attain this world, and they're going to attain the next world. And this is the delusion these people have. That I have all this, so I am better. This is their logic that they have. Let me explain what I'm trying to say. Their logic is because Allah has given me wealth, He has favored me. Allah has given me beauty, He has favored me. Allah has given me strength, He has favored me. Allah has given me children, He has favored me. This is the mentality that they have. And because He favored me in the dunya, He will favor me in the akhirah. Whose mentality is this? We'll get to this in a second. Because we get this question where people go, why is the unbeliever, sometimes you'll hear people, why do they live better lives than we do? People will say this. Allah says in the Quran, لا يغرنك تقلب الذين كفروا في البلاد. Do not be deceived when you see the unbelievers go to and from city to city, and they go and we look at them as if they're fearlessly going. You know, like, if you look at our people, they're always afraid about what they're going to say next. Will I be crucified for this? I've got to be careful. I need to be politically correct. And then you get these people, they will say things and it's normal. I remember when the Secretary of State of the United States in the early 90s, after the Iraq War, when they did the food for weapons, was it food for weapons, I think, program? Food for oil, actually. See, I forgot what they actually wanted. Food for oil program. And they asked her, now she's basking in the fire of hell. Yeah, she's not alive anymore. So they asked her, what do you think, there's 250,000 Iraqi children. That's why I'm not surprised with what's happening today. You know, people go, 30,000 children be killed. I said, mate, they're not numbers. I've lived life. 250,000 children, the first Iraq war, not the second one, the first, have been killed for your little food for oil program. Do you think it's worth it? Without any hesitation, she said, yes, it's worth it. Worth for me to have 250,000 children killed. 250,000 children. So you sit there and go, how can they speak like this? If you dared right now, in some Western country, say that Hitler killed 5.99 million Jews, you'd be prosecuted. In Germany, if you do one number, if you say 5,999,999, 6 months jail you're looking at for dropping one. You know, so you have to add Anne Frank there. You know, so they always want you to find that extra one. You have to add that extra one. If you do not, then you'll be prosecuted. So anyway, this logic is people have that when it comes to the United States. They have this delusion when it comes to the United States that they live happily. You know, listen, when you watch the news, you know, for example, when we were kids, they used to tell you that the resistance in Lebanon would hit the Zionist entity. When they would hit the Zionist entity, you would hear, they hit them with Katyushas, and then you would hear the people, even the own people, the Shia, would say, you know what they would say? They say, عم يخربشوا حيطانهم بالكاتيوشا. ما عملوا شيء. That's what they say. They did nothing. They scratched their walls. That's not true. They do not let you see what's happening. If I told you right now, in the United States of America, that the poverty line, what's called percentage is so fast. And if I told you how many people live in their cars and live in the streets, and how many people can't even afford certain things that you find and take for granted, you wouldn't believe until you went there. You want to see what the poverty is like, but they don't let you see. The civil unrest in the United States, no one talks about it. See, we are deluded if we think that their freedom, do what makes you happy, has worked for them. If it has worked for them, why have they got an oxycodone epidemic? Why are they all on prescription drugs? Why is there so much suicide in the United States? Why did Robin Williams, a comedian who looked like he was laughing in every movie he made, kill himself? Why did Anthony Bourdain, who was a celebrity chef, they say that his phone had more celebrities numbers than anyone. You know, you get people now, if they see a celebrity, they faint. You know, if some influencer sends them their filthy hanky, they'll pin it up on the wall. Anthony Bourdain, I'm trying to be as non-septic as possible. So anyway, Anthony Bourdain, in his phone, had all these celebrities' numbers, and then he had all these people that he knew, and they all liked him. Yeah, he committed suicide. Why? Why? Because when the lights go out, the show's over, reality kicks back in. Why do you find a lot of heavy metal bands? You ever noticed how they're really skinny, a lot of them have those thick heroin injecting veins? Have you ever noticed? Why? Because they need to feed what? Their pain through a needle. Why? Because after the show's over, the lights go out, it's darkness again. They're not on a stage and they can't mingle with normal people. Why? Because normal people go, oh my God, it's so-and-so. You're the best. You know, I remember once, it's that bad. I remember once Latrell Mitchell was walking and a South supporter goes, I love you. I go, what do you love about him? The guy's been rubbish for 1.5 years. But I love you. That's how they feel when they see a celebrity. They see them, they go crazy when they see a celebrity in their face. When we talk about the delusion of this, the delusion of who? Banu Israel. You know how like Banu Israel, they tell you we are favored, even in your Quran it says. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran what about Banu Israel? اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم وأني فضلتكم على العالمين. Allah says, I gave you distinction over the world. Who is he talking to? Everyone collectively? He favored them. Of them, the Anbiya were from them. The Salihin were from them. So these people were the ones that were favored. That Allah chose these people from you. They took it as we are God's, what? Chosen people. And you are Gentiles, and everyone else is different. Or the word that they're using now is a bit, you know, I might go a bit Nazi right now, or they use the unta mention, subhumans. This is what they said, that the Palestinians are what? Human animals. That's what they actually used. And they said this very explicitly. But the funny thing is, people are so deluded thinking that's what they thought of the Palestinians. That's what they think of every single one of you. And I'm not talking about the people in this congregation. I'm talking about the whole world. Everyone is a human animal except them, because they are favored by God in their deluded world. Even the people that come up and say, brother, the Prophet's wife. Yes, the Quran says the Prophet's wives are favored. Ya nisa an-nabi, lastunna ka ahadin min an-nisa in attaqaytun. If you are righteous, you are favored by God if you're the wife of the Prophet. What about the Sahaba, brother? Ahsan, the Sahaba are favored if they are righteous. If they're righteous, they're favored. If they're not, They go into the rubbish dump of the history like everybody else. Then people come up and tell you, brother, I was born Shia, I'm favored. No. You have to believe and follow the religion. I remember once I was someone, he said to me, I'm a Sayyid. That means Allah has favored me. I told him, I said, what does that mean? He said, I'm a Sayyid. That means even if I'm bad, a bad Sayyid doesn't get punished by the fire of hell. He gets punished by Zamharir, which is cold or something. And I said, really? He said, yeah. Okay, someone's written something false in the Quran then. Because Abu Lahab, who is also a Sayyid, for some reason, Sayasla Naran, what? Thata? Lahab, and there's a tawqeed. That's not only a fire, it's a fire that has flames. So there's a mistake in the Quran because this Sayyid's going to get burnt. Something's not right. Then he made the biggest mistake to save himself. He said, Sayyid's only the son of Fatima. I said, so Imam Ali is not a Sayyid, khirbat al-dunya. If Imam Ali is not a Sayyid, khas ma'ash fi din. What the hell are you talking about? Who is Sayyid? Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullah alayh, is not a Sayyid, shubad. So however you try and save it, there is no one that has a favor except who? Allah favors who? Inna akramakum 'inda Allah atqakum. The ones with the most piety are the most favored in the eyes of Allah. So do not be deluded by anything else. Just don't, when people post a video of some safira speaking about Amir al-Mu'mineen. Listen, if she's a Christian, a safira, someone doesn't wear hijab. If she's a Christian, obviously hijab's not part of her religion. That's good. But if she's a Muslim and a safira that's praising Ali ibn Abi Talib, go wear hijab before you sit and start praising. I remember one person sent a video of Bushra Khalil. You know who Bushra Khalil is? Of her praising Ali ibn Abi Talib. Bushra Khalil is of Shia parentage from the Jnub. Before you start praising what she said, Bushra Khalil was the defense lawyer of Saddam al-Takriti. Saddam Hussein, as he's known. She was his defense lawyer. Amtimda Ali ibn Abi Talib. You're praising Ali ibn Abi Talib. What's delusion you have? And you're defending Saddam? The murderer of the followers. When he sent Hussein Kamel to destroy, kill the Shia in Karbala, they had on the front of their tanks, La Shia ba'da al-yawm. No Shia after today. And then you go defend him. And then you want to praise Ali ibn Abi Talib. Amir al-Mu'mineen is buried from you. Or the one that has their Instagram and securely has the Dhul-Fiqar resting in her bosom. And shows everyone that, I'm keeping the sword warm. What's this? Or the dancing mural. The guy that's tattooed from head to toe in 313 and then he does dance videos on TikTok or God knows where else he's going to do them. How do you represent? This is delusion if you think Islam wants you. The follower of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam does not do the acts of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. This is delusion when you get to this point. If this, when you have all this, isn't a reflection of you being favored, this is a trial, how will you fare? I have money, it's a trial. I have beauty, it's a trial. I have strength, it's a trial. I have children, it's a trial. It's not you being favored, it's you being tried. Allah will try you if you fare well with this trial, F-A-I-R, not F-A-R-E. Well, with this trial, then you have paradise. If not, Allah will say you lost what I gave you. What did you do with all this wealth I gave you? What did you do with this status, this position that I gave you? What is it that you did? If it's about being favored, let me give you an example. If you think that I'm being favored when I have all these things, let's see if I'm true. Two people in history, famous people, recognized by Jews, recognized by Christians, recognized by Muslims. One is the Pharaoh and one is Moses. Musa was a slave. He was the son of slavery. Banu Israel were the slaves of who? The Egyptians. Were they or were they not? Poor. He had nothing but a staff. He was so poor that he was with his wife. Sorry, before we get there. He was so poor that he had to work for I don't know how many years, 7 or 10 years, before his father-in-law accepted to marry him to his daughter. These days, a guy comes up to me and he wants to kick down someone's door because I'm a mu'min and they won't accept me to marry a daughter. Who the hell are you? I'm a mu'min. I want to marry a daughter. We have a trade where people are throwing their daughters on the streets. No. This was Nabi Shu'aib, and the one that came to ask for his daughter was Nabi Musa. Know what house you're knocking on the door and what you're about to get. So Musa was that poor, and he had to wait to get his wife. And when he got his wife, one day they're sitting down, it's getting dark, they're getting cold, and then he says, I see a fire in the mountain. Let me get some of this fire, an ember, so I can make you warm. So he hasn't been favored by God. Look how poor he is. Pharaoh was the king of Upper and Lower Egypt. Upper because Upper Egypt was the one on the south and Lower Egypt's the one on the north. That's the reason I'm not dyslexic. So he ruled both. He had everything. He owned everything. He had all the power. Do I not have the rulership of Masr? Do I not rule Egypt? This civilization that leaves people wondering when they look at the great pyramids of Giza. They think, what and how were these built? Who are these people, these Egyptians? That they've actually even started to conjure up the most craziest of ideas how the pyramids were built. They do not understand this civilization. How powerful? Were they favored? Or was Musa favored? You tell me. Who did Allah split the sea for? And who did he drown in the depths? Allah favors. Allahu waliyul ladina amanu. Allah is with those that believe. يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور. He will take them from the darknesses to the light. See, when I have delusion, there's a problem with it because I have no grasp of reality. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam says, سُقْرُ الْغَفْلَةِ وَالْغُرُورِ أَبْعَدُ إِفَاقَةً مِنْ سُقْرِ الْخُمُورِ. Use the word suqr. When we say someone's sakran, means they're drunk. You know why do we use the word sakran? Suqr. Because bisakkir al-aql. You can't think anymore. Your aql just closes. It's closed. You can't think anymore. But he says the drunkenness or the intoxication of al-ghafla, inattentiveness, not being aware of what's happening around you, wal-ghurur, and delusion. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, he says, أَبْعَدُ إِفَاقَ مِنْ سُقْرِ الْخُمُورِ. That the drunkard will reach soberness. Sobriety can't be used because sobriety means you're fully off alcohol, isn't that right? It'll be soberness. I'm just trying to make sure the English is correct. So if someone to become sober again, it is easier to become sober from alcohol than to become sober from delusion. Amir al-Mu'mineen says this. He says in another hadith, من غره السراب تقطعت به الأسباب. Whoever is deluded by the mirage, what happens? تقطعت به الأسباب. You know what تقطعت به الأسباب means what? In English we say he's at wit's end. At wit's end means what? That you are completely puzzled and perplexed. You're in an utter state of confusion. If you are someone that looks at a mirage and thinks this, people live. You know when they used to say if If wishes were horses, then beggars would ride. The people that are deluded. You'd be sitting with someone who says, that's it. When you get these motivational speakers, influencers say, you too can be rich. No, you can't. That's why there's the 1% and there's the 99%. You can achieve this. No, you can't. You can try, but you're not. Someone, honestly, it's how deluded some people are. Someone said, did you know the Williams sisters, their father took them when they were a young age and he trained them? And I said, brother, everyone does this. How many of you have taken your kids at a young age, got them stuff? They're not going to become Lionel Messi. Are you dreaming? They're born like this. There are things that you can't do. These people are born. They're born like this. They are absolutely born like this. You think you're going to get Steph Curry's trigger hand? No chance. He's born like this. You have people that will train and train, they just don't have it. You're born like this. It doesn't mean don't train and don't try, but just remember there are people that have got God-given ability. They have this. So don't be so deluded thinking that I can get to this point. Now, why do we attend these gatherings? Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam says, بَيْنَكُمْ وَبَيْنَ الْمَوْعِظَةِ حِجَابٌ مِنَ الْغِرَّةِ. Between you and the maw'idha. Maw'idha is when you're getting an exhortation, when someone is advising you. Sometimes you're talking to your child and you go, oh my God, I'm talking to the wall. You talk and you talk and you talk and you go, this person's not, because they are deluded. They think that if I get this, if I achieve this or that, that's it. I've achieved everything. So you can talk all too much to them and you will get nowhere in whatever you say. Nowhere in whatever you say to them. And I'll get to this as we move on, because I need to move on with the story. I don't want to sit here all day on this point. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam says, كم من مستدرج بالإحسان إليه ومغرور بالستر عليه ومفتون بحسن القول فيه. See, sometimes we get deluded. Why? Amir al-Mu'mineen says, min mustadrij. A mustadrij, someone is, when we're talking istidraj, it's when you pull someone into, or you lure them in some way. Sometimes we might hear when it speaks about Allah, Allah gives you a break, a bit of respite. And He says, مُسْتَدْرِجًا بِالْإِحْسَانِ إِلَيْهِ. That Allah Azza wa Jal does good to us. So we think, hold on, this is work. Sometimes people come and they tell me, I'm having so much bad things happening to me. I'm having no success in life. I've got problems. I hear this all the time. And they see this as Allah's upset with them. Who said that means Allah's upset with you? I'd be more afraid when everything's working out. Everything's working, everything's running smooth. And they're so serene. That silence before the death. Sometimes when you're walking, you say, it's quiet. Yeah, too quiet. Gets too quiet. I need to be alone. So Allah's doing so much good for me. بالإحسان إليه ومغرور بالستر عليه. And I'm committing so much sin and God is covering it up. I sit around people think, oh, this guy's so pious. And I've got more talish coming out of my house than a person that owns a freezer industry. I'm selling, but in front of the people, I'm giving to the poor. Look, I know this guy's giving to the poor and he looks so good. He's giving, he's doing all the right things. Yet the way that I've been making my money is questionable. Then he says, وَمَفْتُونٍ بِحُسْنِ الْقَوْلِ فِيهِ. Maftoon. How? That you are, when we say someone's trialed, with what? بِحُسْنِ الْقَوْلِ فِيهِ. People say good things about you. And sometimes someone says, you know what? Wallah, hada Adam, he's trustworthy. A moment, you know what? I'm all right. Why do you think people go to someone to be basir on someone? They go, I want to see this guy bi'arif, bi'ara. I said, you know why they call them con artists? Because they give you confidence. They make you. Do you ever see one of these people be bastro? They tell you, listen, you've got an acne problem, you're a loser, no one likes you. They never say that. They go, you know what? This is what they tell you. You're a trustworthy person. You do so much good for others, they don't do good back. You go, yeah, that's me. They're reading me out. Yes, you're the best. And you sit there and start thinking. I used to remember one of the brothers, his mother, Hajji Allah Yarhamah, when I used to go see her, she used to say, Heda, bisum 3 ashhur bitsini. And I'm thinking, well, who's she talking about? Someone's been saying lies about me. He fasts 3 months. You sit there and think like this to yourself, you know what, I do fast 3 months because they're saying it. They're saying I fast 3 months. You fast 3 months. So what if you fast? How are these months you're fasting them? How am I doing all these actions to begin with? So what if people are praising me? A mu'min gets affected when people praise them. A mu'min gets upset. He says, Allahu a'lamu binafsi. Allah a'lam with myself. Allahumma ja'alni khayran mimma yadhunnun. Make me better than what they think of me, what they're saying about me. وَاغْفِرْ لِي مَا لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. And forgive and pardon me for what they do not know. That's how he feels. Doesn't have this delusion. So let's finish off the story. So after he's sitting there praising himself and who he is, the other man says to him, the other man that has nothing, قَالَ لَهُ صَاحِبُهُ وَهُوَ يُحَاوِرُهُ. Now, this is the other part of the dialogue. He says, أَكَفَرْتَ بِالَّذِي خَلَقَكَ مِنْ تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ مِنْ نُطْفَةٍ. Notice what he uses. The first words he says to him, the other guy, the poor guy, he says, أَكَفَرْت. أَكَفَرْت meaning what? When you said someone kafart, you disbelieved in who? The one, and you're ungrateful, in the one that created you from turab. He's letting you know where your origin is. Think about this. God created us from earth, from dirt, from what you step on. We step on this earth. And then from nutfa. Yani Allah is saying here, He's saying to him that God created you from earth. In fact, He created you from what? From a nutfa. A nutfa, you know what nutfa is? A spermatozoa. That's single spermatozoa, which is 50 micrometers. I know you heard meters, you might think, oh wow, it's massive. 50 micrometers. It's not something that you cannot even perceive. You have 20/20 vision, you can't see it. That's what you came from. That's what we all came from. This is where we all began. He said, this is what you are. He's letting him know. And then he says, ثُمَّ سَوَّاكَ رَجُلًا. Then he made you into a man. And this is where your origin is. So what are you so vain about? What are you so deluded about? He says, لَكِنَّهُ اللَّهُ رَبِّي وَلَا أُشْرِكْ بِرَبِّي أَحَدًا. Allah is my Lord and I take no partners. When you are deluded with what you have, you're taking a partner with God. You're thinking, I'm safe because I have money. I'm safe because I have children. I'm safe because I have strength. I'm safe by all these. So if I have this opinion, what happens to me? I remember one quote where someone was talking back to Conor McGregor before he was humbled by Habib long ago. He said to them, no man alive can beat me. And they said to him, the reporter said, what about Jesus? He said to him, Jesus is dead. This is what he said. Then he remembered. He said, no, Jesus is alive. This is what he said. He said, but if he came to me, I'd still kick his backside. You notice the kufr in this guy's words. And then he was humbled. And he was put in his place to the point that he beckoned for his life. He said during the fight, please do not kill me. this same guy that said that he would do this and that. Once there was a strong man, and they used to talk, this was in the old Persia, and he was so strong, he said to them that if Azrael came or Sa'il, I will defeat him if the angel of death comes. So one day he had a jalta, a stroke, and he was in his bed, he couldn't even move. So he started screaming for someone to help him. They came into the room. He said, I'm feeling pain in my toes. They found a rat nibbling on his toes, and he couldn't even prevent that. He wants to fight the angel of death. Allah Azza wa Jal will put you in your position in one moment. And this is what he says to him here. وَلَوْلَا إِذْ دَخَلْتَ جَنَّتَكَ قُلْتَ مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. I said, when you enter your gardens, just say MashaAllah. You know, that's why we get ain. How do people get ain? Because you don't say MashaAllah. You see a guy, he's posing in front of the mirror while he's doing weights. He's going to look at the size of this chest, and bang, he tears his pec. بيصيب حاله عين. Looks at the mirror, بيصيب حاله عين. He does the ain for himself. Because he doesn't say MashaAllah. Look at Allah, what He's given me. Look at what Allah has given me. لا قوة إلا بالله. No strength save in Allah. That's all you have to say. He says, إن ترني أنا أقل منك مالا وولدا. If you see me that I am less than you in wealth and children, he says, فعسى ربي أن يؤتيني خيرا من جنتك. Perhaps God will give me better than your gardens. He says, وَيُرْسِلَ عَلَيْهَا حُسْبَانًا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ فَتُصْبِحَ صَعِيدًا زَلَقًا. That God perhaps may give me one garden that is better than your garden, and will send a calamity upon it from the sky, and it will become nothing. And you could be given anything, Allah can take it away. يُؤْتِ الْمُلْكَ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah gives the wealth to whoever He pleases, and sovereignty, and He takes it from them. Every single one of us, He'll take it from us. When we go to that grave, we go to the grave and nothing gets taken with us. يا أيها الإنسان ما غرك بربك الكريم. What are we so deluded about? What delusion? What are we so deluded about in this world? When we came from earth and we returned to earth. You know, there was a king of Banu Umayyah, the 7th king of Banu Umayyah. And I don't call him caliphs, because the caliph is the one that's appointed by God. The 7th king of Banu Umayyah, Sulaiman ibn Abd al-Malik. And they say he was a handsome man. So one day he wanted to go out in the street, so he dolled himself up. I don't know if he wanted to attract the women or the men, but he dolled himself up. He came out into the street, and then he said to one of his handmaidens, he said, only this dunya would be so good if there was no death. This dunya would be awesome if there was no death. And then she said, the beauty of this dunya for you, O king. She didn't call him king, but I'm going to change a word. She called him Amir al-Mu'mineen, the title of Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salam. She said, O king, if it wasn't for death, you would not be where you were. Had it not been for the death of your brother, Walid ibn Abdul Malik, you would not be the king. How are you going to be in this position? And in fact, her words rang so true, because Walid ibn Abdul Malik, the 6th king of Banu Umayyah, was already planning for his son Abdul Aziz to take spot. As he planned it, he died. And Sulaiman, this, you know, he would probably be looking like Justin Bieber back then, you know, very feminine looking king. This Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik, do you know how long he ruled for? The same as the first king. He ruled for 2 years. 2 years, that's all. He did all this just to rule for 2 years. What delusion? You sit there, you strive for power, you get power for how long? And before you know it, it's over. It's taken from you. So we ask ourselves today, why are we so deluded? Why do we think that we are the best? We are only the best when we are the best of people. We act upon what we are taught. We act upon what our religion is. This is the only way for you to see yourself who you are. Do not think because I am a follower of Ahlul Bayt. You know, people sit there and go, Allah Ghafurur Rahim. You sat for 30 nights in Shahr Ramadan and listened to Dua al-Iftitah. How many times did you hear, وَأَيْقَنْتُ أَنَّكَ أَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ فِي مَوْعِظَ الْعَفْوِ وَالرَّحْمَةِ? You say, yes, Allah is the most merciful. Where? When mercy is applicable. Why do we all forget وَأَشَدُّ الْمُعَاقِبِينَ فِي مَوْضِعِ النَّكَالِ وَالنَّقِمَةِ? When it comes to vengeance, when it comes to wrath, Allah is the most severe in punishment. Laylat al-Jum'ah, Dua Qumail. How severe is God's punishment? We say, وَهَذَا مَا لَا تَقُومُ لَهُ السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ. That not, when we say samawat wal ard, we're not talking about the sun and the moon. The samawat, the entire universe cannot bear the wrath of God. Why am I so deluded? How can I bear the wrath of God? How can I withstand the wrath of God? Can I bear it? And this is why my character must be developed to the best. How do I lose this delusion? And I'll finish off with this. How would you lose this delusion? Think about this, and I'll leave with this hadith and we're done. عن الإمام جعفر بن محمد الصادق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. He says, من وثق بثلاثة كان مغرورا. When we say وثق, he has trust in three things, they are deluded. So what I have to do is avoid these three things. First, he says, من صدق بما لا يكون. من صدق بما لا يكون. If I believe the impossible. You know, sometimes someone comes and says, you know, a scientist said this. And I said, who was a scientist? They say Richard Dawkins. I say, Richard Dawkins doesn't believe in God. He is a moron. If I told you right now, I say to my kids all the time, I say to them, for example, this chair, how did it get here? Someone put it here. Isn't that right? If I told you this chair just appeared, they said it's impossible. How can a chair just appear? I said, well, these atheists tell you the whole universe just appeared. But back, I swear it will make you cry. And this person comes and tells me, remember 3 years ago? When they were telling you, scientists said you have to have this and take that, and you know, we have to make sure all the poor people are in lockdown and all the rich people can frolic freely. And everyone just accepted it. They even, you know, you're saying it sounds like a joke, but they actually said the poor. Remember that doctor, what was her name? What was that doctor's name that was always on the news with Burj-Khalifa? Who was the one that was always standing with her? What was her name? Huh? What was it? Kerry? Was she Asian? No, it was her surname Chang. I didn't know that. I thought only Jackie's surname was that. But anyway, so she got up and she said, this is what she said, that COVID affects lower socio-economic families, especially families of indigenous, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. Like seriously, people will listen to this and they gobbled it all up. Why? A scientist said this. They don't believe in God. Why, what are they saying? They don't believe in God. This person is an imbecile. How can I listen to someone who doesn't believe in God? So it's man saddaqa bima la yakun. Whoever believes the impossible is maghrur, is deluded. So if you believe in something impossible, you're deluded. Then the Imam says, wa rakana ila man la yathiqu bih. As for the one that relies on someone that cannot be trusted, or something cannot be trusted. Someone that relies on these people that can't be trusted. Someone relies on the dunya. Can the dunya be trusted? How often does the dunya deceive? How often? You sit there every year in Muharram, we listen about Umar ibn Sa'ad when he was given what? Mulk al-Rai. That's what they told him. If you kill Imam Hussein, you will have the city, the province of Rai will be yours. Isn't that what they said to him? He was deluded with this, he didn't even get it. How can he trust these people? These people betray everyone. Take a look at the world around you. Look at the world around you. They keep trusting. You know, you take a look at the hero of Sunday, the protector and the defender, Malik Abdullah II of Jordan. You know, this man is one of the most noble people I've ever seen. Honestly, think about this guy. This guy, with his eyes, saw Hosni Mubarak fall. He saw Muammar Gaddafi fall. He saw all these leaders, one after the other. The West forsook them and betrayed them, and up to now he still defends. He still take a bullet for them. Standing there tall in defense as much as he can, because he still trusts an unworthy, an untrustworthy. Now, these people are so untrustworthy on their currency they got. In God we trust. And in God, it's probably mammon, their belief in wealth and love of that. They cannot be trusted. And the dunya is like this. If you give your trust to dunya, you're gone. Finally, he says, وَطَمِعَ فِي مَا لَا يَمْلِكُ. And is what? Is someone that avidly desires what they do not possess. What do I not possess? What do you possess? I'm going to ask you. Allah says in the Quran, تَبَارَكَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ الْمُلْكِ. All sovereignty belongs to Allah Azza wa Jal. Do you know when everyone dies and there's no one left on the earth? No one's left on the earth. Allah Azza wa Jal will say, لِمَنِ الْمُلْكِ الْيَوْمِ. And a dead silence. You know that silence when you're in a hotel room and there's no one in there in the middle of the night. I'm not talking a shabby hotel room, you know, I'm talking about proper hotel room. You know that silence, you know, married people can appreciate this. When you have a room all by yourself, there's no kids, and that silence. There's a dead silence. لِمَنِ الْمُلْكِ الْيَوْمِ. Then Allah will respond, لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَّارِ. He'll respond to himself. All sovereignty is to Allah, is only for Allah. قَهَرَ عِبَادَهُ بِالْمَوْتِ وَالْفَنَاءِ. Allah defeated everyone with death. Everyone will die. And Allah says to His Prophet even, وَمَا جَعَلْنَا لِبَشَرٍ مِّن قَبْلِكَ الْخُلْدِ أَفَمِتَّ فَهُمُ الْخَالِدُونَ. If you're going to die, do you think they're going to live forever? No one lives forever. Everyone will die. Allah is the only one that will live. All sovereignty and all possession is only for Allah. You possess nothing. Do not be too attached. You're going through a rut right now. You're having a bad time. Why care? It's not your problem. You can't afford something. It's not your problem. God will sort it. God sorts everything. It's God's problems. God bought you. He said, I will sustain you. Who will sustain you? You realize, do you know something? You know what I love when you go through tough times? You realize how many stupid things you pay. How many memberships you have that you don't need. Subscriptions you have you don't need. How many things you pay for that you don't need. You know, I don't want to give examples, but I've seen things people have purchased. And I say, Ya subhanallah. And I don't want to, you know, like, they purchase things and you think, I don't want to give examples because someone will call me later and go, oh, you mean me by this when you say this. Because I've seen too many things this week. People have purchased and I think, wow. What people pay for. You realize all these extra things that you buy that you don't actually need. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to hasten the reappearance of our master, Al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Mahdi. And we ask Allah to let us know in our hearts that if I marry this person or if I get this job or if I get this, it won't necessarily make me. Let me have this qana'ah. That I don't think that things will get better for me if I have this or that. No. وَرَدِّنِي مِنَ الْعَيْشِ بِمَا قَسَمْتَ لِي. Ya Allah, ask Allah to make you pleased with whatever He has written for you. Whatever He gives you, be pleased with this. Oh Allah, make us pleased with whatever You've given us. Oh Allah, we ask You to give our believing brothers victory over the unbelievers. And Ya Rab, please do not let this year end without us hearing. When I say year, I'm not talking about December, I'm talking about the Hajj, just before Muharram. That we don't hear of a victory, an ultimate victory where we have Nasr over those that have oppressed and the oppressors that exist. Oh Allah, rid us of all those that wish us evil and all those that want what's worse for Islam. And we ask Allah that we stand beneath the standard of our Imam and we are martyred by his side. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. اللهم قل لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. والأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والأرواح موتانا جميعا ولقضاء الحوائج وقبول الأعمال وشفاء المرضى وغفران الذنوب ولتعجيل الفرج وحسن العاقبة. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.